You are listening to Mining Stock Education.
Nioc, where we recently announced 52 meters of 1% copper, which is incredibly high grade. We've now extended that channel sample to 155 meters of about 0.54% copper, which is really high grade as well. These are some of the best surface copper results I've seen globally in the past few years on a project that's never been drilled, specifically the Nioc target.
Thanks for tuning in to Mining Stock Education. I'm your host, Bill Powers, and in today's show, we're getting an update from our sponsor, Coppernico Metals. Coppernico put out more surface results at the Nioc target at the Sombrero project in Peru. Remember, Sombrero is a big project. It's a project of projects, and this one target, Nioc, already had good surface results that we talked about, I believe, in September of last year. More results, Ivan, you just put out. You defined 155 meters of continuous copper mineralization, averaging 0.54% copper. Could you break this down for us? What does this mean for the company?
Sure. Yeah, just as a quick introduction, I know there's some new readers, although watchers all the time. This is a decade-long pursuit of a world-class copper district in southern Peru. It sits on the same trends or nearby as Las Bambas, which is the 11th largest copper producer in the world, and several other major mines. And what we've been doing is exploring an area that's been covered predominantly by volcanic cover. So not all of the ground that would have the copper in it is exposed. There's an area that's got some past drilling, 200 plus meters of 0.5% copper on surface called Fierrazo. And then this area, Nioc, where we recently announced 52 meters of 1% copper, which is incredibly high grade. We've now extended that channel sample to 155 meters of about 0.54% copper, which is really high grade as well. But that width is extremely impressive. And if you look at the rest of the results as we move further south, we're seeing widths of 120, 140 meters of about 0.4, 0.5 in that range as well, with very, very high grade sections of these big trenches that we're doing, which would be coming from skarn mineralization. These are some of the best surface copper results I've seen globally in the past few years on a project that's never been drilled, specifically the Nioc target. And just not far away, the Fierrazo target, where we have some historical drilling, which was targeting iron, never sampled for copper before. We saw the grades and surface occurring in the drill holes as well. So the story behind Sombrero is extremely compelling. The 9 years it took to get here has been partly to do with getting social side or social access to the project and getting permits. We had a chance to drill 20 holes in an area called Coscabamba, where we paused last spring because we were waiting for a lot of data and we didn't want to drill ahead of the data. And we've subsequently had a chance to open up new areas like Nioc and launch a very significant geophysical program over both Nioc, Coscabamba, and an area called Tipiconcha. When we drill, we're drilling for knowledge in first phases of any project. And what we've seen here is the hallmarks of a big skarn system and the potential for major porphyry system as well. And so seeing this kind of surface evidence continue on some of the exposed areas where there isn't as much cover is truly outstanding. And it really supports our thesis that it could go to depth from surface and be potentially one of the new major copper discoveries globally that we're all looking for.
Last September, when you announced results at Nioc, it was 52 meters of 1.06% copper with some high-grade intercepts. Was the sampling approach the same with the results you just put out?
Yes, it was channel sampling, combination of channel sampling and trenching. So in that first sample that we did in September, we actually used a rock saw and we cut the rock that was sticking out of the ground. We were allowed to go in and actually dig trenches, which are down about 2-3 feet deep, and sample the bedrock from there as well. So it's a combination of both. Obviously, the channel sampling is like a horizontal drill hole, so it's extremely accurate. It can actually be used in a resource calculation should you find more copper at depth, but the trenching that goes with it in bedrock is very representative as well. And so that's extremely impressive. This is a small window of exposure. If you look in our deck, you'd see it. There's a hill where some of the rocks are exposed, and a lot of them have a thin layer of volcanic cover, which appears green with grass on it. But we trenched as far as we could before it started to get too deep. So we don't know the full width of these trenches and how wide this could potentially be, which is extremely encouraging. And we don't know how far it's going to extend north to south either, because we can only get into the areas that have very thin cover where the rocks are somewhat exposed. but these are outstanding grades compared to anything you'd see globally in terms of copper exploration. And these are really substantial widths to also pay attention to.
And what is the status of the social access and permitting for Nioc?
Yeah, so, well, there's a few permits ongoing right now. The big one is for the Cascabamba area, which would give us access to Fierrazo. Fierrazo has historical drill holes. It's an expanding discovery story. Again, this was originally drilled for iron. We were the first to sample it for copper. We started to see the 0.5 to 0.8% copper over tens of meters in the historical drill holes. So we want to drill there first. That permit looks like it's actually a bit ahead of schedule than what we thought it would be at this time. So fingers crossed that continues, and we have that permit pretty soon. It will give us access to about 185 drill pads over a significant area. We can actually drill today, but we're not going to because we don't have our geophysics back. This would be over several areas that we've drilled nearby where we've had we're having pretty big revelations through gravity and various other geophysical surveys we're doing that are giving us context of what we drilled so far and where we should have been where we drilled. In the case of Nioc, we are 2/3 of the way there. We're just waiting for a community meeting. There's a recent president elected in the late end of last year, and we hope to have a resolution with community meetings here in the coming months, and both would be in the position to drill this year if everything went as planned. So our goal is to have a steady pipeline of both very advanced targets with extensive copper mineralization on surface, some with historical drill hole, as well as some targets that are slightly buried that we're going to be drilling throughout the rest of the year.
And you own this project 100% still, all of it, right?
Yes, we do. We own this project 100%. Teck recently bought into Teck Resources, which is a major mining company, recently bought 9.9% of the company, and Newmont owns about 6% of the company. The last press release, and I'm sure this one too, it's certainly got a lot of global attention from major mining companies. We have about a few $1 million in the treasury, not enough to go drilling, but we have warrants that are in the money, and we have a lot of options for financing here to consider, but we're in no rush to do a raise here in the next 30 to 90 days. Right now, it's just about getting these trenches out, getting some updates on our drilling out, and then going out to the first quarter and second quarter and showing everybody what we're going to drill next in this really, really impressive copper environment with copper crossing $6 spot per pound today as we speak here today.
Ivan, we talked last year about perhaps a U.S. project acquisition. Is that still in the cards, or are you not focused on that right now?
Well, you know what? Acquiring a project in the U.S. is very much high on the priority list. We have not found one that comes close to Sombrero yet. And unless something measures in similar scale and quality, it's really hard to pull the trigger on it. We're kind of falling in love with Sombrero here because we're seeing a really good trend towards getting more permits and access to more of our targets. We've had a continued partnership with the communities, which we value immensely. And that's really starting to pay dividends as we're about to turn the corner and approach our biggest discovery year. With our plans in the rest of this year and subject to financing, of course, we'd like to be in a position to drill 40 to 50 holes across these numerous targets. Some are hidden, some are very pronounced, some are very obvious, but the true story of this company is just coinciding with the timing of the copper market. We didn't plan it to take this long. It took us a lot longer to get in here. The time spent and the partnerships we built with the communities is a massive asset to the company. And right now, as copper starts to break out, we're about to get permits to some of the best areas and be in a position to drill some of the most exciting copper targets in the world.
Ivan, the warrants, you expect those to get exercised here soon? You mentioned warrants.
Yeah, they're in the money and they're with great holders. So that's a very good possibility for financing. We've gotten a lot of attention with this asset. There are 2 corporate investors at this time, and we're entertaining all options, but we'll see how things go. In the next few weeks, we'll be attending the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, and then at the end of February, we'll be at PDAC. And in between that, I plan to be marketing quite a bit as we've got a lot of really exciting results here to talk about, and we also have a lot of permitting updates to come here in the next 60 days.
Okay, Coppernico is a show sponsor. They have been for quite some time. I've been a shareholder going back to 2018 when I first met Ivan in Toronto. The company's website is COPRnicometals.com, ticker symbol COPR in Toronto on the big board. And in the States, you can find it on the OTCQB under CPPMF. Thank you for this update, Ivan.
Thank you very much, Bill.
you.